First off, I just want to again extend, Happy Easter, everyone, and welcome to St. Pat's. I know that traffic's been kind of crazy in the parking lot, and so I said Happy Easter at the beginning of Mass, but there's obviously been a lot just kind of filing in over the last, over the readings. And so this past Good Friday, oddly enough, it fell in my lot to babysit my little niece, Emma, just this past Friday, and she's an absolute cutie. She's 2.5, and she kind of looks like Boo from Monsters Inc. For those who have seen it, yeah, really, she does absolutely, like a striking similarity. She has these two little dark pigtails that are always bouncing about. She's just so energetic, rambunctious, and what even makes her cuter is that she's not really good with consonants yet. So, for example, she calls my brother Tom, her other uncle, Am, so it's Uncle Am to her. And she calls me Nene, so I'm Nate is my first name, and so I'm Uncle Nene to Emma. And so I arrived at my parents' house to watch Emma after the Good Friday service, and I had to put her down for her nap. And so, I got her blanket and got her books and, had the hardest time. All she did was fight and cry because she was just so excited to see, her Uncle Nene show up. And all she wanted to do was play. And so, I put her down in her crib and just, went outside the door, and she just continued to cry, and she kept calling out, Nene, I don't want a nap, Nene. And for me, it was kind of hard listening to her kind of sob, and it took like 10, 15 minutes before she exhausted herself and finally went to sleep. But for me, who I don't often, watch her by myself, and it was kind of hard to hear her crying, and there was something in my heart that I just wanted to go like, push open that door and just go down, pick her up, give her a big hug, wipe off her tears. But I knew that she had to take a nap, that she would be better for taking a nap. And so I just waited outside the door in silence, patiently waiting until she went to sleep. Sometimes when we cry out in our suffering to God, we seemingly hear nothing. And just sometimes because we don't hear response doesn't mean our loving God isn't listening. Our faith, the scriptures, tell us that we just have this loving God who's always with us, there listening, just waiting just outside the doors of death and in our current situations, just in love of us. And we hear about this. He's with his people from the very beginning of scriptures, following them, bringing them to the promised land. And the most amazing thing is that our God sends his only son who takes on just the weakness of our human flesh and who goes through just this most horrific death for love of us. The good news of Easter is that death, sin, suffering, it's not the end. Because of Christ's sacrifice on the cross, the final victory over death, sin, and suffering has been won. And by means of our baptism, we are able to participate, in the great reward, the victory of the cross. And in the sacraments, especially today when we receive the Eucharist, we have the opportunity to share in the spoils of that sacrifice, to receive all these graces that our Lord wants to give us. He wants to bless us so much, so abundantly. After Emma finally fell asleep, I took the baby monitor and I went out into my family's garden, my father's garden, and I went on to kind of trim all our red buds, this beautiful kind of tree that in spring has these just vibrant, bright red flowers on it. And it's my third year kind of trimming these red buds. And yet I still kind of find it difficult, kind of carving up, pruning this live thing. There's this certain kind of fear that, by cutting off some of these living branches, it might die. But I'm reminded each spring that through means of this pruning, these trees are more vibrant. They are more beautiful. They have more refulgent splendor because of the pruning and cutting away those limbs that they do not need. And as I was finishing up the pruning, the baby monitor started to go off, and I knew that Emma was waking up. And so I went up, got Emma, opened up the door, picked her up from the crib, put her hair in her little ponytails, did a pretty poor job. My mom usually does it, but nonetheless, she became Boo, and we just went out into just this warm, sunny spring day, and just this beautiful blanket of yellow daffodils, and Emma went and picked a few daffodils, and we spent the whole afternoon just playing in the park and having an amazing time. The joy of Easter is that sure hope that those of us who remain faithful to Jesus after our nap, after the big sleep, after death, we are invited to play in the eternal garden with Jesus Christ, him who loves us best.